Hello, hello, ladies and gentlemen. This is your girl Mitzi, and this is Mitzi. Let's think about it. Today we are thinking about mountaintop spice and life. Ooh, isn't that a thinker? And luckily, I have Marilyn here who's going to really help us think about this in a whole new way. So, thank you so much, Marilyn, for coming on my show and sharing your time and your perspective with me. You could be doing anything right now, but you are with me. So, I'm truly honored for this moment with you. So let's just dive right in. When you hear those words, mountaintop spice and life, what does that make you think about?
Well, I live in North Idaho, and we do live kind of on a mountain. And probably about 14 years ago, I was thinking about a name for my a blog I wanted to start. And I thought, well, I live on a mountain, and I like to write about the little bits and pieces of my life. And all of a sudden, it just came to me, Mountaintop Spice. And so in my blog, I just share little bits and pieces of things that happen to us up here. And because we live in the Wild West, every day is a new adventure up here. And so there's lots of little spice of life. And I have we live on 10 acres and I have animals, chickens, cats, dogs. And then, of course, we have all the wildlife. We've had cougar, bear, turkey, um, moose, deer, elk, all of those come to visit us all the time. And so it's just it's just a great life out here. And so every day there's an adventure. And so when I started my blog, I started it because I wanted to write about those little adventures, and I called it the spice of my life. So that's kind of where that got started.
Oh, I love it because then it allows people to really see your life in a different perspective. They're able to imagine that environment in a whole different way because when people think of Idaho, they don't think of mountains, they don't think of much of anything when they think of Idaho besides the potatoes. So when you allow somebody into your world, it really does bring things into perspective that people don't really even consider or really wouldn't even like thought was possible. So the fact that you have all these wildlife animals, they're making their way through your home, through your land and through your area, it really does make you realize like, huh, that is something that I didn't even think about. And that's my whole goal of my podcast is that right there is I didn't even think about that. So for you, I know that you said that you moved out there, but was this a real like culture shock from living in Texas to living in Idaho? And how did you adjust yourself?
So just a little background on me. I was actually born in Prince Edward Island, Canada, and I grew up on the shores, the sandy shores of the island, with Anna Green Gables. I have all of her books, and so that's where I grew up. And I loved, Lucy Maud Montgomery as a child, and read all those books. And so all of those very picturesque words and pictures of outside, the outdoors that Lucy Maud Montgomery was famous for. And so then my family moved to Texas. My dad had work, that opened up in Texas, and so uh, as a young adult, we moved. I was the oldest in my family. We all moved, and it wasn't long after that we moved to Texas, and of course, culture shock, big time from the island to leave one country to go to another.
Yeah.
And so then it's yes, total culture shock in Texas. And then I met my husband to be, and we got married within a year. And and we lived in Texas probably I can't remember exactly how many more years, but we moved around a little bit, and we decided we wanted to buy some acreage, and we started looking, and it was just so out of our budget. So my husband happened upon an advertisement for Idaho, for land in Idaho, and it was dirt cheap. So we thought, well, let's take a vacation up here. And so we planned to come up to Sandpoint. So we came up to Sandpoint, and we had a vacation up here. And oh my goodness, fell in love, said, this is where we want to be. So we went back home, put our house up for sale. And we moved up here when our house sold, and we rented for a few years and kept looking, because what we found out was that land that's cheap also meant no power, no water, none of the amenities. You're off grid, you're way out, where maybe snowplows don't even come in the winter. And we still had young children in school. So we were like, yeah, that land is a little too cheap for us, because we need something a little more accommodating for our children. And so we found this piece of property here, and it's 10 acres, and it was undeveloped. It did have a septic on it. So we went ahead and started improving the property and moved out here. And so that's just kind of been, a little bit of the transitions in my life. When we moved to North Idaho, it was a different culture. I mean, it wasn't totally unlike the culture I had grown up in Canada on the East Coast. Now we're on kind of the West Coast. So, but it doesn't matter where you move. I don't care if you move, 200 miles away. A lot of times there's different cultures, and there's little micro cultures in every area. And that's what we found when we moved here. And there's little, things that people say, and you don't even realize it until you come from somewhere else and you go, wait a minute, I could tell you're from here, you're not from here, because you just said that wrong. And for
Hmm.
example, like some of the names of the towns, some people will call, if they've never been to Spokane, Washington, they might look at the name and say, oh, it's Spokane, Washington. And no, it's Spokane. So you start to learn, how people say those names and places, and instead of going to the creek, you're going to the crick, and that kind of thing. And so before long, you start to assimilate, especially when the kids start school and they're hanging out with their friends, and it is. There's always, whenever you move any amount of distance, I would say microcultures exist all over wherever you go. But definitely from East Coast to West Coast, Southern, Northern, yeah, there's a lot of that.
Oh, I know exactly what you mean because I've have moved around throughout the states from Wisconsin to Georgia to Florida to Texas, back to Wisconsin, lived in Connecticut for a while too. You know what I mean? So going back, I understand exactly what you're saying. Just the verbiage, the accents, the cultures, the microcultures. I love that you brought that up because it's so real. Like people don't realize like you get a certain area and then in that area you get certain blocks or certain another smaller area that speaks
Yeah,
certain different things differently. And yes, you most definitely know when certain words are said wrong because in the South, if you say iced tea versus a sweet tea, they
yeah.
automatically know the difference. You know what I mean? Iced tea and sweet tea
You
is
know, yeah, you got to make sure
so
you say
different.
iced tea in the north, or you're going to get hot tea.
Exactly, exactly. So it's a really big difference. Or even when in Georgia, when they're like, "Oh, bless your heart," that's not a
Oh, bless
compliment. That's
your
enough.
little
You know what
heart.
I mean? That I had to learn that the hard way. This lady looked at me and was like, "You really are not from here." And I'm like, "No, that I use it wrong." She's like, "You used it terribly wrong." And I was just like, "Ugh, well, thank you for correcting me." You know what I mean? Like, it's always nice to have those people that will correct you and help you in a kind way, give you that grace. Like, you're not
Mhm.
from here. We'll let you slide. So I know exactly
There's
what
a
you
tip
mean.
for you.
Exactly. Fun fact, that's not how you say it. That's not how you
Yeah.
use it. Like those things are really big of a difference. And even food, you know what I mean? Sometimes food can
Oh,
just
food is,
also
oh
be
my goodness.
tons of a difference. So it's just like, I know that it's that spice of your life. So it's just like for you, how did you really assimilate your family to really accommodate your new area in Idaho?
Well, when we first moved here in Texas, my kids were used to nonstop. You go nonstop until from the time you get up to you go to bed. There's stores open all day long. Well, that was our first culture shock. Everything shuts down here at 5 or 6 o'clock. I mean,
Yeah.
everything. And some of the grocery stores may stay open a little later, but um, so I remember one night the kids were like, we're bored. And I'm like, okay, well, let's go to the library. Oh, the library was closed. It closed at 6. Anyway, so we had to learn to find our own entertainment at home. And the other thing I learned was that the food up here is so different from the food that we were used to in Texas. I mean, Texas believes in spice. Speaking of spice, um, so, foods are very salty, very sweet, very, 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 lots of flavor. And up here, everything's very, I mean, most restaurants up here serve hamburgers and steaks and, just very basic food. There's not a lot of, different flavors like you would get in the South. And so that was a culture shock for us. So that's when I really transitioned from, the fast food drive-through kind of meals, on the run to I got to cook every meal because fast food's not an option here. We can't just go to fast food because they're probably going to be closed or, it's just not an option. Who wants to eat hamburgers every night of the week? So um, so I started learning and diving into, cooking from scratch and making everything. I started making sourdough, kombucha, all of the fermented foods. We started, buying our own meat, like, a half of a cow and putting in our freezer. So we didn't have to go to the grocery store all of the time. We started learning to stock up. Like when you went to the grocery store, you didn't buy for just one day or two. You stocked up for a month or 2 or 3. And we started, with a big pantry and filling that pantry with canned goods and with, supplies and paper goods. And so our whole existence kind of changed to where we started planning for, to have food for months at a time rather than just enough to get us through the week. And so then I started gardening, and that's, really been huge. I grow a huge garden every year, and I can, and I freeze, blanch, cook, do all kind, give it away. I do all kinds of things. So I started really, experimenting with that. And that's kind of where my cookbook, I wrote a cookbook last year, and my kids, had grown up with me making all these things and cooking everything from scratch. And I mean, everything was home cooked for the most part. We hardly ever eat out. And they were like, Mom, how do I make this? And Mom, how can you tell me? Or they'd come in and snatch a jar of salsa from my shelf and say, Hey, Mom, I want some salsa, and sure. I make a ton, so I give it away. And anyway, so then I thought I need to make a book so that they can have these recipes. So that's where my cookbook came in, and Mountaintop Spice cookbook, family cookbook, and it's available on Amazon. And it's just this very basic recipes. I am not a fancy cook by any means, but it's simple recipes that got my family through, this, this is how we live now, really. And it's just, it's a simple cookbook, but it's got just about everything in there that you would need to feed your family on a regular basis, covering all the meals in a week. And one of the things I like to do is I like to cook once and eat twice. And so make enough, for your main meal. So, whether it's a roast chicken or a roast pork or roast beef or, whatever meat you're going to make. And then make enough to where you can have it for a second meal. So you cook once, you eat twice, and you can spice up those leftovers. And I include those ideas in there and how you can take, a meal, for example, you can make a roast chicken and you can take and boil the bones down. I don't throw anything away. I boil the bones down and I boil them for about 24 hours. I save the broth, I can the broth. I take the bones and I chop them up real fine and I feed it to my dogs or my chickens. I use the broth to make chicken soup. I use the meat to make whether it's a pot pie or chicken enchilada soup or chicken tortilla soup or uh, shepherd's pie, chicken and dumplings, chicken soup. I mean, the possibilities are endless with, as you know, with chicken. And
Mm-hmm.
so my goal here was to eliminate waste. So all of my food, I either give it to the chickens or I find another way to repurpose it, and I compost it or something. So yeah, we've learned a lot. It's definitely been a great learning experience here. In my cookbook that I wrote was born out of that. And the first book that I wrote, Through Love's Eyes, it started um, because I'm a photographer and a scrapbooker. I was a scrapbooker for many, many years. I probably hundreds of scrapbooks and pictures, always taking pictures. And so I had taken some incredible pictures while, living up here in North Idaho. And so I made the book. Just using my photography and sharing some of those pictures. And so that was my first book, Through Love's Eyes, that I published in 2020. And then my cookbook came next.
Oh,
So
that's
it's just been, and I'm working on on another book right now.
Oh, that's awesome. And that's so beautiful. I'm glad that you were able to realize the importance of long term. You know what I mean? And a lot of people don't realize that. Like long term
Mhm.
is real,
Mhm.
especially if you live in the country
Oh
where,
yeah,
like you said, like things shut down at a normal business time. And people don't realize like that's a thing up north. Like in the South or in those big major cities, it's
yeah.
24/7. It's nonstop
Mhm.
going. And but when you're in like the Midwest or in the West or just places where it's not so heavily populated, they really embody um their time, you know what I mean, with themselves and with their family. You know what
Yeah.
I mean? And that's when you have to start inventing things, you know what I mean, inventing food, inventing an entertainment, inventing just your joy, and then identifying what brings you joy. You know what I mean? You learn a lot about yourself when you have all of this space and this freedom and you're not accessible to the easy convenience of a big major city or a big overpopulated area, because people who are in those overpopulated area, they will never have the need for all of those storages or to even fathom like buying half of a cow and making that last for such an amount of time. But I get you, you know what I mean? I'm in Wisconsin, and since I'm in Wisconsin, and my goal is to find land out in the country and to really embody that homestead mindset, I
Yeah.
understand, I can respect what you're doing for your family and for your children and for yourself, because it really is a different thing. Because not only do you learn this, but you get to teach this to your children so that they can respect the
Yes.
land, so they can respect the animals, so that they can respect the environment, the natural process of weather. Because even with the weather, it makes it you think into consider take into consideration how you're gonna garden, how you're gonna handle your animals, how are you gonna handle your resources, how you're gonna handle your water sources. You know what I mean? Everything takes into
Everything.
consideration. You know what I mean? Like you prepare in advance. Like preparation is key. My husband had the harsh reality when he moved from Houston, Texas, all the way up to Wisconsin, because he did not understand what preparation meant. Like I was, oh, the anxiety gave me when he was like, "Don't even worry about it." I'm like, "You got to prepare." Like I would be the one like, "No, we have to go to the store. We have to buy salt. We have to prepare. It's already cheap right now." Because I told him like, "You buy for the winter in the summertime and you buy for the summer in the wintertime. You do the
Yep.
opposite." Why? Because everything's cheaper in the winter for the summertime and everything is cheaper for the winter. You know what I mean? Back and forth. So it's just like you have to do that, because when you're in the moment, not only do you have the salt, not only do you have the gas, then not only do you have all of the resources that you need available, you're not struggling trying to plow your way out when you already have the source resources there. You're not gonna figure out, oh, how I'm gonna cook. Well, no, I already bought enough food for the month. Like I already bought enough for extras, if just in case we did run out of this, at least we still had this. You know what I mean? I'm with you. I'm with you,
Yeah.
Marilyn, because I am the same way. Like he makes my blood boil when he does not prepare. You know what I mean? For the first 2 years of our relationship when he was out here, it was just like ah. But then after that, he finally is understanding like preparation is better. So it's like, was it easy for you to get your husband and your children on the board, or was it like kind of like pulling teeth?
No, my husband and I, we were totally together on this.
Oh,
So
that's good.
we didn't necessarily have the struggle that you had. However, my husband was a Texan. He was born in Kerrville, Texas, and raised there all his life. And so I grew up on the island, in the East Coast, and my dad was very much a preparedness kind of person because, again, we lived in the North. You might not get to the grocery store if a snowstorm hits.
Mm-hmm.
So my parents also bought, would put up a cow, and they had a big garden, and we went out and picked wild blueberries. Well, here we picked wild huckleberries. And so there's a lot of similarities in the culture that I was raised in and the culture that I moved to, but there's also a lot of, they're not exactly the same. But enough of that from my childhood was like, I get this, this is coming back to me. I could do this. And one thing that I was so excited when we moved to Idaho, I was quite worried about growing up on the East Coast. They get all those nor'easters that go up the coast, and then your power's knocked out for days on end, and the wind blows relentlessly, and every time it
Yeah.
snows, the snow just blows, and it's awful. And you have all these drifts and stuff, and I was just like, oh, the wind. I grew up with so much wind, it just blew all the time. Oh, when we came to North Idaho, I was so worried about that first winter. It was like, I can't even describe, it was such a winter wonderland. We don't, maybe I shouldn't say this too loud, but
Knock on the wood.
we don't we don't get a whole lot of wind here with this part of Idaho where we're at. And so, we do get some, but not like what I was used to, not to where the roads are closed because of blowing snow. And you would get that in Wisconsin, I'm sure, on the prairies. But where we are here, because of the trees and the mountains and stuff, you just don't really get that blowing snow. And so the snow just falls down out of the sky, and it's just, you just want to sit and watch it. It's just so beautiful, and
Oh,
it'll
it
just
is.
pile up, and it just piles as it falls. It's not blown into, like, a
Yeah.
pandemonium.
Oh,
And
yeah.
so that was wonderful. I loved that part of the winter. I was really worried about it. And of course, the plowing and the dealing with the driving, the ice. And of course, we're up here on a mountain. So to get off of this mountain in the winter, it's a dice. You got to have four-wheel drive. You really do. And, you just got to take the corner slow and those kind of things. So it was teaching our kids how to learn how to drive, and just we had some experiences, with that, so it's been spicy. It's been great. I can't
Yes.
imagine my life without it now.
Oh, I know. I love it because I love your description of the snow because I know exactly what you mean. Have you ever really just stepped outside and while the snow is freshly falling? Oh, the peace. Oh, it's
Quiet.
something beautiful. It's like this, it's I don't even know how to describe it, but just when you're just standing there and there's no wind and it's just snow falling and piling up, it's just this peace. Like that's my favorite time to go outside and shovel. Like I'm the one I love to shovel. Like I told my husband, like I will beat you to shovel before you get up and even fathom it because he's a Texan. He's from Houston. He was born and raised in Houston, and he never
Yeah.
even imagined, like he never even thought about snow. And the first experience of snow he had, he was just like, "It's real," and I'm like, "Yeah, it's real. Why you don't have real snow in Texas? I wouldn't imagine you do." And he's like, "No, because they have fake snow when it's the holidays." And I'm like, "No, it's real. It melts. Like it's beautiful." So I'm the one that likes to go out and shovel because I just like to hear the snow fall. It's like this peaceful like moment of connecting with nature in a way where it's like, oh, I could feel it, I could hear it, I can embody it. I don't know what it is, but that's my go-to place. So I'm always excited for the winter. I just don't like those that windy snowstorm. I know exactly what you mean. When those blizzards come
Weather.
around and it like slices your face. Yeah, yeah, it's a no bueno time. It's it's not fun, but I'm glad that you had that understanding with your husband where you were just like, no, we're gonna do this together. We're gonna think about this together. We're gonna move as a team, as a unit, because in the long run, this is all we got. You know what I mean? We have is each other and our family. Whoever's with us now is all that we have. And that's one thing that I told my husband too, is just like when you have to remember like this is our family. Everyone outside of our home are just relatives. Everyone inside our home, this is our family dynamic. This is our unit, and this is who really we need to make sure that matters and is taken care of. So it's like now that he has that understanding, he moves differently and he tries to step up, but not when it comes to shoveling. That's my game. I will be quick to go out there.
But we
But
have we have a tractor, and my husband and son, they both, do all of that. So And we don't have to shovel a whole lot here, just sometimes, the front porch or something. But most of
That's
the
good.
time well, we've had a roof over our house. We didn't have to shovel, and we just moved into a new home that we've gotten on the property. So we're still, in a transition there. So yeah, shoveling will be. We have to shovel roofs. Like my greenhouse, I have to go out and shovel it. Because I don't want the snow to cave it in. So roofs, we have to shovel some roofs sometimes. The chicken coop usually does okay and it slides off. And but yeah, winter was different. Like hearing the first time that I heard snow slide off the roof, and it had been so many years that I'd forgotten. And you just hear this massive thump, 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 thump,
Yeah.
thump,
Yeah.
outside your door, and you're like, oh, what was that? And yeah, like so when the snow starts to melt in the spring, that's kind of a dangerous time. I keep my animals in and try to keep them, from because it's kind of scary
Yeah,
when the
it
snow
is.
starts to slide. And so again, that kind of microculture stuff, dealing with the snow and, just a lot of different things like that.
Oh yeah, most
Yeah.
definitely. Because I told my husband too, like you gotta, because he was confused on why all of the houses up north are pointed. You know what I mean? I was like, it's because if you have a flat house during the winter, the snow could pile up and basically, like it cave in, and then you're kind of like screwed. So it allows it to slide off eventually when the warmth develops, or you just knock it over with your shovel or in a
Yeah,
ladder,
you have
and
to get one of
yeah,
those
start
big
pulling it.
shovels that have a real
Yeah.
extension, and we've
Hmm.
done that. But yeah, all of these things that people, when they first move to Idaho and they're coming from the South, you don't have any way of knowing what you're going to be having to deal with. And so people buy, it happens all the time. People buy houses and then they don't realize what it costs and what it involves to get through winter. And winter is our
Yeah.
longest season here. It can start in October and then not end until April. And
Yes.
so
Yes, over here too. Over here too. I
yeah,
told that to my husband. He was like, "That's not true." I was like, ha, "That's cute." I remember when it snowed in May. You think that's not gonna happen here? I literally remember it was spring break, and I was supposed to do my first newspaper run as my first job ever as a 12-year-old. And as soon as I walk out the door, it was a snowstorm. There was a blizzard. There was snow beyond my hips, and I'm still a shorty, so it still counts. So.
I'm short
I
too.
I know exactly what you mean. Like people do not realize that when you move up north, there is a different way of survival. You know what I mean? There's a different way of operating. There's a different way of thinking. There's a different way of just moving through life in a way that you know that to make life convenient for you, it's about being prepared. And
Being prepared. Yep.
yeah, very much being prepared. And I think that's the beauty of our conversation is it allows people to really think about the culture differences. You know what I mean? The fact that we both have the differences from moving from the north, from the south, from the east to the west. You know what I mean? We have that
All over.
understanding. So it's a beautiful moment, but time is catching up to us, Marilyn, and I am sad because I could feel like I could keep talking to you about life
Yeah,
forever.
you and I could talk for a while. I could.
We really can, but what can be some lasting words that you can leave us off with to keep on thinking?
I walk every day, and that is my body and soul exercise. I call it. It's exercise for my body, but it's exercise for my soul. And one of the things that has gotten me through so many difficult situations that do come about, just life in general, um, is walking. Because when I walk, I'm outside and I can think. And I walk, I don't care, what the temperatures are, whether it's hot or whether it's, below. I walked in as cold as below 20, and you just bundle up and go. But there's something about getting outside and just being out in God's creation and letting Him, speak to your heart and clear all the cobwebs out. And then it's like I get insights, I get ideas, I get creativity. And
Yeah.
when I get home, I'm refreshed and I'm ready to start my day. And so that's where I feel like the spice in my life comes is when I'm walking and I get those ideas. And so my advice to anybody that wants to be able to think clearly. Your show is about being able to think, and let's think about it. Go outside. Go outside and walk. Go find a nature trail if you can, or just go somewheres and get away from the bustle and hustle and just look into the beauty around you. And that's what my first book was about, Through Love's Eyes, was about just looking at this world around us. It's God's gift to us and his love shown to us through his creation. And just look at the world around you with some different eyes, and to realize that you can take the goodness from what is out there, and it'll feed your soul, and you get some exercise and you walk, take your dog. I take my dogs with me because it's safer. And I do live in the Wild West, so I have seen, all kinds of animals on my walks. But they've never bothered me. I've never had a problem because I'm out there and God's taking care of me. But
Mm.
it's the best way to think. If you want to think about it, get outside
Oh,
and
I love it.
and just let the spice of life fill your heart.
Yes, I love it. I am with you because whenever I just take my walks, I get these like light bulbs, you know what I mean? These ideas, this connection, this understanding, or the answers to that question I asked a while ago to myself. You know what I mean? That inner reflection, that intuitive moment. And I truly
Mhm.
believe in what you say. Just connecting with nature reminds you that there is beauty all around us. There is joy in the smallest of things. Like I remember one time I took a walk into nature and I stopped what I was doing because I was in awe over ants. You know what I mean? Over ants that were just doing their normal day, and they were just in line in order, just managing whatever that they were managing. And I was just like, just imagining and wondering and curious and just in awe. And then I see something else, and that allows me to be in awe again. And it's like nature's amazing. And if you allow your creativity to be sparked in nature, the endlessness of where your imagination can go, the stories
Yeah,
that can come from where what these ants were doing or where they were going, you know what I mean? Just the
yeah,
simplest things. I
yeah,
mean,
just
it's
simple but powerful.
oh, so powerful. And it's just, even if you're not taking a walk, you know what I mean? When you just look outside instead of looking on your phone, or just look up and
Yes,
look out, you know what I mean? Because I could just be driving and then just see trees with snow, or just see trees in general and the bright summertime day, you know what I mean? You can just see the beauty of nature even in its rawness. Because one of the things that my husband was so confused about, because when he experienced his first winter, he was like, everything's dead. How is it even going to become alive again? And I'm just like, just wait to the miracle of spring,
yes.
because
Oh my goodness.
everything comes back alive again, and it's amazing. Because like when you're in the South, all you experience is one season, you know what I mean?
That's
Or
right.
maybe
It's hot, hot, and hotter.
yeah, exactly. Or like if it's medium hot, 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 burning hot. You know what I mean? Depending on the area. Because when I was in Florida, it was like, oh, humid and like,
Oh my
ugh. And then
gosh.
when I was in Texas, it was like a oven hot. So yes, it's so different. But when you experience all four seasons, oh my
Oh,
goodness,
it's incredible.
you have like this joy of knowing that summer is there, winter's there, fall is there, spring is
There's
right
a
there.
change coming. If you don't like it, a change really is coming. A
Yes,
good change.
exactly. And it's a good
Yeah,
change. And then it reminds you that that's the same change that happens in our lives. You know what I mean? If
that's
you want to
right.
get
That's
deep,
right.
like the seasons of nature, of the earth, of the world can happen in our lives too. So it's like when we are stuck in a certain season, don't worry, just move and you'll find out you're going to go into another season. You're going to keep
Yeah,
going. Like there's so many ways to just think about things, but you have to give yourself that opportunity to think. And I think just getting yourself out with nature truly does allow you to do
yeah,
exactly that. So,
yeah.
oh, Marilyn, I can keep talking to you.
Keep the trash, girl.
I know, right? Oh, ladies and gentlemen, if you enjoyed this conversation as much as I did, and you want to check out Marilyn, because how could you not? Go check her out. I have access to her website in the description. If you're listening in audio or you're on YouTube, go check her out. Oh my goodness, you'll find all of her great books, all of her great blogs, all of her great content on her website, just so that you can continue on thinking. Don't do yourself a disservice and stop thinking, just keep thinking. So, with that being said, bye.